Doing a video of how I set up my Terminator X safeties. Try to be quick and concise and not go into other stuff, but I had a few tricks on my end that helped me get it to work that maybe were not addressed in other videos and tutorials. So the first thing you need to do is, whether you're a boosted car or not, is add the Boost ICF. I've got it here. If you don't have it, go to Toolbox, add individual config, and look for the individual config library. Go to Boost and then add it. Within the Boost ICF, down here at the bottom, safety setup. Let's let it focus. Down here, you're going to add a safety, which I'll show you how to do, and you're going to add it from the drop down. Active for means how long that condition is in place before it will do the action, and the action is either cut ignition, which is what I'm doing, or revert to wastegate. I'm not a wastegate car, I'm a Pro Charge car, no wastegate, so I'm just doing cut ignition. And then you're going to go to the actual inputs and outputs. You're going to go to outputs, and so just pay attention to number 4 through 8. Those are the ones that are operating with the main safety. So the main safety is this. This is what's tied to the cut ignition command and the Boost ICF. Go to configure, and this is what I'm still a little confused about. I have mine RPM is above 2500. Like I said, the Boost ICF doesn't cut ignition until 2500. So that, you can set that higher so it won't actually come on until 3,000, 4,000, whatever you want to set it to be. I want mine to be working at a relatively low RPM. It's a street car, occasional track car. It doesn't live its life at 5,000, 6,000 RPM. So I want it to work if I'm just doing a quick pull on the street or whatever, and it's overheating and I'm not aware of it, the safety will come into play and protect the engine. So that's the only condition I have. You can do multiple conditions, but if you want to set the first one, go to 1, set your conditions from the list. Pretty straightforward there. I have nothing here. I don't think doing and or here matters from what I understand. So that's the main safety. We'll go back and then we'll just touch on one of these. I have ones for pressure, that's fuel and oil pressure, and then coolant and oil temperature, and then boost, and then voltage. But we'll just talk about the temperature safety. So you create one, give it a name, enable it, and then configure it. Again, up here is blank for me. Down here I've got 2 conditions. So like I said, this is the coolant temperature, CTS is coolant temperature sensor, and then I have a custom oil temperature sensor added. Both of them I have set to basically protect the engine at 250 degrees Fahrenheit. So I have that both set here. I don't know if I'm just testing this out. 250 sounds about right. I'm not gonna quibble about that, but you may want to set it to your own parameters. So you've got that created. Important here is the all. All means both of these have to be active, above, meeting that threshold that you set for the trigger to actually work. Now I should set this to single, because that means either coolant temp or oil temp above 250 will trigger the main safety to cut ignition. So be careful about that. Some cases you might want to use the all, where you want two conditions to have to be met. In this case, this is a catch-all temperature safety from two different sensors. I want either of them to work when they meet that threshold. I hope that's clear. So you've created that, you go back again, and then in your main safety, you configure and then go up to linked outputs. Now here's where you link the outputs. So the coolant temperature and oil temperature, they're all outputs. You capture them under the one safety I call temp safety. So they just call it a linked output. And I have that right here. So I have my other ones, but the temp safety is right here. Pick it from the drop down, make sure it's enabled. You can disable it if you want to. But that's it. So again, single means if any one of these are met, that will trigger the main safety cut ignition. You could say all. They'd all have to be the case. That's going to be pretty rare. Hopefully you're not going to try to do that, but I think you want single here. If any of these thresholds are met, then it will cut ignition. And that's pretty much it. Other than the other safeties you might want to create and link, that's it. The one trick I ran into, and I can't really demonstrate it right now, but I was setting these up and they weren't working. And I think it might have been because at the bottom you see a little message about restart ignition. If you make certain changes to the config, it wants the ECU to restart. I was seeing that, and I was keying the car off and back on, not realizing that wasn't really working. Maybe the message was there, maybe it wasn't. What worked for me was saving the config after you've done it all, and then closing the application on your computer and reopening it. And that made the message go away, and that seemed to make the safeties work. I can't really say for sure, but I was having a tough time. I may have had a little too much going on with the linked outputs, which I fixed, but the way I just showed you is the way it works. Just make sure you don't have a message about a restart your ignition, because that could be preventing the config from actually going to the ECU and working. So I think that's it for the config. I'll try to do a quick demo on the car. Not sure how well you can hear me, but the engine's running. I close and reopen the application, and when I connect, I use the USB link to get a live connection. I've got my cable connected, and I should get this. I should get a change in the input output. So what I do is send to ECU, and that's sending the change to the ECU, and then I'm done. So what I did for testing was to just set the temp safety at a very conservative number, the coolant temp 150. Now that's really low, I know. I'm doing this to test it out. I don't want to test it at 250, obviously. Got it at 150. I save the config like I showed you before, and now I've got the engine running, and at 2500, when I rev it, it's going to cut. works. It's like it cuts it, lets it go back up, cuts it. Not really dramatic on the street. Maybe if you're at 5,000 RPM, 6,000, it'll be more abrupt. But I drove around, tested it out. It's not too bad. It'll tell you something's not right, and you can pull over. But that's how it works.